If you're over 60, there's something you do every single night that might be quietly raising your risk of a stroke, and you'd never even know it. No pain, no warning signs, no slurred speech or dizziness to wake you up. You go to bed, feeling perfectly fine, but by morning, something has changed. You wake up confused. Maybe you can't speak clearly, or you reach for your coffee and realize you can't lift your arm. A stroke. Silent. Sudden. Life-altering. And the cause? Not your diet, not your exercise routine, not even your medications, but something much simpler and far more overlooked: the way you sleep. Now, that might sound hard to believe, but as a brain health doctor who has cared for older adults for decades, I can tell you, I've seen it again and again. Older patients who thought they were doing everything right, eating well, taking their meds, going for walks, and still, one morning, everything changed. Not because they smoked or skipped a pill, but because of the position they slept in. You see, there are certain sleeping positions and nighttime habits that can slowly increase your stroke risk, not over weeks or months, but overnight, especially after age 60, when blood vessels naturally begin to stiffen and circulation slows. That's when the danger becomes real, and tragically, most seniors have never been warned. But today, that changes. Now, before we dive into these life-saving insights, I want to take just a moment to welcome you, especially if this is your first time here. You're watching Trusted Senior Health, where we focus on one mission only: to help older adults like you take control of your health, your mobility, and your independence, naturally and confidently. Every day, we share research-backed health tips designed specifically for people over 60, with a focus on simple changes that make a big difference in your daily life. From leg strength and heart health to better sleep and safer nutrition, we're here to guide you, one small step at a time. So if you find value in this kind of content, if you appreciate learning the why behind your body's changes, and what you can do to stay strong as you age, I invite you to do 3 quick things. Click that red subscribe button below this video so you never miss a tip that could protect your brain, your heart, or your mobility. Turn on the little notification bell so you're alerted each time we release a new video, usually twice a day. And if you're already subscribed, we'd love to hear from you. In fact, if you're already finding this video helpful so far, type the number yes in the comments below to let us know you're with us. Or if you'd like to see more detail or a different topic covered, feel free to suggest what you'd like next. Your feedback helps shape everything we do. And now, let's get into what really brought you here. Because while most people believe the way they sleep is just a matter of comfort, the truth is, for older adults, it can quietly become a matter of life or death. Let's start with the first habit, one that seems harmless on the surface, but may silently increase stroke risk every single night. Habit number 1, sleeping flat on your back with no pillow. Let's begin with one of the most surprisingly dangerous sleep habits for seniors: sleeping flat on your back without a pillow. Now, at first glance, this position may seem completely harmless, maybe even healthy. It's common, it feels natural, and many older adults find it comforting. Some say it helps reduce pressure on their back or spine. Others feel it opens up their chest and helps them breathe more deeply. But here's the truth that most people, including many doctors, never explain clearly. Lying flat on your back with no head elevation can silently raise your risk of stroke overnight. And the most concerning part? You won't feel it happening. You'll fall asleep feeling just fine and wake up with symptoms you never expected. Let's walk through what's actually happening inside your body when you sleep this way, especially after the age of 60. When you lie completely flat, your head rests on the same level as your heart. This might sound natural, even balanced, but from a circulation standpoint, especially in older adults, it can actually cause problems. You see, as we age, the blood vessels in our neck and brain become less flexible. They don't expand and contract as easily as they used to. And that means blood doesn't flow out of the brain as smoothly as it once did. In this flat position, your veins, which are supposed to carry used blood away from your brain, are now fighting against gravity. Instead of draining efficiently, blood can begin to slow down, pool, or even clot inside those narrowing vessels. And this becomes especially dangerous in the early morning hours, when your blood pressure naturally rises just before waking. That small clot that formed quietly during the night, it can suddenly dislodge and travel into the brain, cutting off oxygen in seconds. That's how strokes happen in the middle of the night, with no warning signs. And for many, the cause is traced right back to this one position. Let me tell you about Mr. Harold Beckett, a 76-year-old retired train conductor. He was a sharp, independent, still fixed lawnmower in his garage. Every night, he laid down flat on his back. No pillow, hands folded across his chest. He said it helped him sleep more deeply, a habit he'd picked up during his Navy days. Then one morning, his wife Mary found him half awake, but something was terribly wrong. His eyes were open, but one side of his face had drooped. He couldn't speak. He couldn't lift his right arm. At the hospital, scans confirmed a stroke. A clot had formed in his left middle cerebral artery, a critical blood vessel in the brain, and it had likely developed during the night. The doctors found that his carotid arteries were stiffened and narrowed, which meant blood had been pooling instead of draining, all worsened by the fact that Leonard slept completely flat. Fortunately, they were able to dissolve the clot. But Harold's recovery has been slow. His speech is softer now. He uses a walker. And every night, Mary now props him up with a wedge pillow. She told me, if we had just known, we could have made that change years ago. So what exactly makes this position so risky? The medical explanation is this. When we lie flat, venous drainage from the brain becomes compromised, especially with age-related vascular changes. In simpler terms, the blood in your brain struggles to flow out efficiently. And when blood sits too long, especially in narrowed vessels, it thickens. Add in natural overnight dehydration and slightly lower oxygen levels during sleep, and you've got the perfect conditions for clot formation. This sleeping position is particularly dangerous if you already have high blood pressure, hypertension, atrial fibrillation, sleep apnea, a history of carotid artery disease, or if you're on medications that lower your blood pressure overnight. So what should you do instead? The solution is both simple and powerful. Elevate your head slightly while you sleep. Even a gentle incline, about 30 degrees, can help gravity assist in draining blood from your brain. This reduces intracranial pressure, helps oxygen reach your brain more evenly, and supports healthier circulation overall. You don't need a fancy bed or medical equipment. A wedge pillow, or even one or two supportive pillows that elevate the upper body slightly can make a major difference. But here's the key. Make sure your pillow supports the natural curve of your neck. Avoid pillows that tilt your chin downward or bend your neck forward. The goal isn't just comfort, it's alignment and flow. Because this is about more than sleep. It's about protecting your brain, your speech, your balance, your independence, everything that matters most. Harold told me, with tears in his eyes, "Doc, if someone had just told me that sleeping flat could do this, I would have changed it years ago." Let me be that someone for you today. And if this position worries you, just wait until you see what happens when you sleep face down, and how it may quietly choke off the very arteries that feed your brain. Let's take a look at the next habit. Habit number 2, sleeping face down. Now that we've talked about sleeping flat on your back, let's look at another position that may feel natural, even soothing, but could be one of the most dangerous positions for your brain as you sleep. That's sleeping face down, also known as the prone position. A lot of people, especially those who've dealt with back pain or anxiety, find comfort in sleeping on their stomach. It can make you feel cocooned, grounded, and safe, like you're pressing the world away. But if you're over 60, this sleeping position may be doing far more harm than good. In fact, it may be silently cutting off blood flow to your brain night after night, and you'd never even know it was happening. Let's break down why. When you sleep on your stomach, your head has to turn sharply to one side in order to breathe. That head turning puts direct pressure on your neck, particularly on the vertebral arteries, two key blood vessels that carry oxygen-rich blood from your spine to the back of your brain. That area, the back of your brain, controls critical functions like balance, coordination, reflexes, and even your ability to stay conscious. And when those arteries are compressed for hours at a time, night after night, your brain may not be getting the oxygen it needs to function or repair itself. But it doesn't stop there. Sleeping face down also places weight on your chest and abdomen, especially when you're sinking into a soft mattress or pillow. This pressure can limit your lung expansion and reduce oxygen intake. And when oxygen levels dip, something that happens more easily in older adults, your brain is placed under stress and your blood becomes thicker and more prone to clotting. Even worse, when the head is turned and pressed into the mattress, it can compress the carotid arteries in the neck, which are essential for delivering blood to the front of your brain. And the veins that are supposed to carry blood away from your brain, they may become kinked, bent, or partially blocked by the next position. All of this means one thing: poor drainage plus poor oxygen plus pressure equals higher stroke risk. Let me share the story of someone I'll never forget. Mrs. Margaret Delaney, an 81-year-old retired librarian. She came to me after a terrifying event. She had always been a stomach sleeper. She said it helped ease her back tension and helped her fall asleep faster. But one morning, her daughter found her lying awkwardly on her stomach, eyes open, but unable to speak. Her left side wouldn't move. At the hospital, a brain scan revealed a large ischemic stroke, the kind caused by a clot blocking blood flow to the brain, and it had affected her cerebellum, the area responsible for balance and coordination. But here's what shocked everyone. Ethel didn't have high blood pressure. She didn't smoke. She wasn't diabetic. There was no obvious reason for a stroke until we looked closely at her sleeping position. She'd spent years sleeping face down, with her neck twisted sharply to the right, and as she aged, her carotid arteries had narrowed, and the position she once found comforting had slowly become dangerous. That compression, night after night, had reduced blood flow just enough for a clot to quietly form. And one morning, the damage was done. Ethel survived, but she now needs a walker to get around. She no longer drives. And she tells me, every time we speak, I had no idea something as simple as how I slept could nearly take my life. So what's the actual science behind this? Studies show that turning the neck too far to one side can reduce vertebral artery flow by over 40%. That means your brain, already vulnerable due to age-related changes, is receiving significantly less oxygen while you sleep. Chest pressure can also limit lung capacity, causing low oxygen saturation, a problem many older adults already face. And if you're using a soft pillow or mattress, your face may sink deeper, making breathing even more restricted and raising carbon dioxide levels. This mix of reduced oxygen, increased pressure, and compressed blood vessels is extremely risky, especially for seniors with atrial fibrillation, people who snore or have sleep apnea, anyone taking sedatives or sleep medications, which make the body less responsive to oxygen dips. In younger adults, the body usually adjusts. A 30-year-old might wake up and turn over when oxygen dips, but at 70 or 80, the body may not respond quickly enough. And the result? A stroke in the middle of the night, with no warning, no pain, and no second chance. So what can you do? Here's the safer alternative. Avoid sleeping on your stomach altogether, especially if you're over 60. Try sleeping on your side, ideally your left side, with your head slightly elevated. Use a firm pillow that supports your neck and keeps your head aligned, not tilted or twisted. If back pain is an issue, consider placing a body pillow beside you or under your knees for support. These small adjustments don't just make sleep more comfortable. They can make the difference between waking up refreshed or waking up in the ER. Because what feels cozy may be putting dangerous pressure on the arteries that feed your brain. And remember, it's not just about how you sleep. It's about what happens to your circulation while you sleep. And next, we're going to look at a surprisingly common habit, one that millions of older adults do without thinking, that slowly suffocates the brain all night long. It starts with something as simple as pulling the blanket over your head. Let's take a closer look. Habit number 3, sleeping with a heavy blanket over your head. Now, we've already seen how sleeping face down can quietly restrict blood flow to your brain. But there's another nighttime habit that might seem cozy and harmless, yet it can create a silent storm of oxygen deprivation while you sleep. It's something millions of older adults do, often without even realizing it. Pulling a heavy blanket over your head at night. Maybe you do it to block out the light from a nearby street lamp. Maybe it helps mute the sound of a snoring partner or a humming fan. Or maybe it's just something that brings a feeling of comfort and safety, a habit you've carried from childhood into your golden years. But if you're over 60, this simple ritual could quietly increase your risk of a stroke during sleep. Here's why. When you pull a blanket, especially a thick quilt or comforter, over your head, you're not just creating a warm cocoon. You're restricting the airflow around your nose and mouth. Over the course of the night, something dangerous begins to happen in that small, enclosed space. Oxygen levels start to drop. Carbon dioxide begins to build up, and your brain, already more sensitive with age, starts to suffer. Your body is designed to breathe in fresh oxygen and exhale waste gases like carbon dioxide. But when the same air is recirculating under the covers for hours at a time, your brain gets less of the oxygen it needs to function and repair itself. And while a younger person might tolerate this without much issue, the aging brain doesn't recover as easily. As we get older, our arteries stiffen, circulation slows, and blood is more likely to thicken or form clots when oxygen levels are low. That's how, in the middle of the night, a stroke can form without you ever waking up. Let me tell you about someone who lived through this and never saw it coming. Mr. Samuel Richter, an 83-year-old retired train conductor from Minnesota, was known for being soft-spoken, thoughtful, and extremely routine-driven. Every night, for as long as his wife could remember, Sam would tuck himself into bed and gently pull the blanket over his head. He said it made him feel calm, like blocking out the rest of the world. Especially during the winter months, when the air in their room was chilly, it became part of his nightly ritual. A soft quilt tucked up over his head, face down on the pillow, curled tightly like a cocoon. But one morning, Sam didn't get up. His wife, Joan, tried to wake him, but he was disoriented, groggy, and barely able to open his eyes. He couldn't speak clearly. He couldn't sit up. At the hospital, a scan showed that Sam had suffered a small but serious stroke during the early morning hours. A clot had formed deep in his brain, restricting blood flow just enough to cause damage. And the cause? Not a skip medication, not heart disease, but oxygen deprivation during sleep, paired with age-related blood thickening, brought on by the very habit he found most comforting, sleeping under a heavy blanket with little airflow. This is far more common than people realize. During deep sleep, especially in the REM stage, when your brain is most active, your oxygen needs actually go up. But if you're under the covers rebreathing stale air, oxygen levels drop, and carbon dioxide levels rise. Your body starts to compensate by beating your heart faster, spiking your blood pressure, and sending stress signals throughout the brain. This kind of instability is dangerous at any age, but after 60, it becomes especially risky because your circulation isn't as quick to respond. Your arteries are less elastic, and your blood is more prone to clot. Add in something as simple as overnight dehydration, and you've created the perfect environment for a stroke to occur without warning. And the most terrifying part? You won't feel it happening. You'll go to bed feeling safe and warm, and your brain will slowly start to suffocate under that comfort. By the time symptoms appear, if you even wake up, the damage may already be done. Research shows that even mild hypoxia, a small drop in oxygen, during sleep is linked to higher stroke risk, cognitive decline, and memory issues in seniors. And this isn't just a problem for people with sleep apnea. It can affect anyone whose breathing is disturbed, whether by posture, medications, or sleep environment. So what can you do? Here are a few small, protective changes that can make a big difference. Instead of covering your head, wear a soft, breathable sleep mask to block out light. Try earplugs or white noise if sounds disturb your sleep. Keep your room comfortably warm so you don't feel the need to bundle up too tightly. Choose lightweight, breathable bedding instead of thick quilts that trap air. The goal isn't just comfort. It's about giving your brain what it needs most while you sleep: fresh oxygen, clean air, and consistent circulation. Today, Sam sleeps with his blanket folded down below his shoulders. He uses a soft cervical pillow, keeps the room at a warmer temperature, and uses a lightweight sleep mask instead. He still feels safe and relaxed at night, but now his brain is safe, too. He told me quietly once, "I never knew something that felt so safe could be so dangerous." And he's not alone, because most seniors simply don't know. They've spent a lifetime doing what feels natural, what brings peace, without ever being warned that the aging brain plays by different rules. But knowledge is power. And now that you know what happens under that blanket, you can choose something safer. Because as dangerous as low oxygen under the covers may be, the next habit we'll discuss is even more common. And it happens in your favorite chair, the one you may be using as a bed. Let's move on to habit number 4 and explore why sleeping upright in a recliner might quietly increase your stroke risk every single night. Habit number 4: sleeping upright in a recliner. Now, if you're someone who struggles with back pain, joint discomfort, or acid reflux at night, you may have made a very understandable decision, one that feels practical and even comforting. You've started sleeping in your recliner. Maybe it began after a surgery. Maybe your bed felt too firm. Or maybe sitting slightly upright just made it easier to breathe without pressure on your chest. Whatever the reason, over time, that comfortable chair in your living room slowly became your new bed. And while sleeping in a recliner might feel like a small adjustment, for older adults, it can quietly become a high-risk habit that affects blood flow to the brain. In fact, if you've been sleeping upright for weeks, months, or even years, this next part may be the most important thing you hear today. Let's talk about why recliner sleeping can raise stroke risk overnight. You see, our bodies were designed to rest flat when we sleep. That horizontal position helps ensure that blood and oxygen flow evenly throughout the body, especially to and from the brain. But when you're in a reclined or upright position, especially at an angle of 45 degrees or more, your circulation has to fight against gravity. And for seniors, this change can have some dangerous effects. Blood begins to pool in the lower half of the body, especially the legs. Veins become slower to drain, leading to stagnation. And the brain may receive less oxygen-rich blood throughout the night. In younger adults, this kind of position usually isn't harmful. Their circulatory systems can adapt quickly. But in people over 60, when vessels are narrower, blood is thicker, and the heart isn't pumping as strongly, the body doesn't recover as easily. The result? Clots can begin to form in the lower limbs while you sleep. And those clots don't always stay put. In the early morning hours, when your blood pressure rises naturally, one of those clots can break free, travel upward, and lodge in a small vessel inside the brain, triggering a stroke before you even open your eyes. Let me share a real story with you. Mrs. Lillian Hayes, a 76-year-old retired librarian from Oregon, began sleeping in her recliner after a hip replacement surgery. At first, it was supposed to be temporary, just until she could comfortably lie flat again. But weeks turned into months. The chair became part of her nightly routine. A warm blanket, the soft hum of the television, and just enough incline to help with her breathing. Then one morning, her daughter found her still in the recliner, confused and unable to move her left hand. She hadn't felt anything during the night. No chest pain, no warning. A scan at the hospital revealed a lacunar stroke, a small, deep stroke caused by a clot in one of the tiny vessels inside the brain. Lillian had no history of heart problems. She wasn't on blood thinners. But she did have one thing: poor circulation in her legs, made worse by years of sleeping upright. Her ankles had been swelling for months. She often felt dizzy when standing up. And every morning, her legs felt stiff and heavy, early signs that her blood wasn't moving the way it should while she slept. Looking back, the signs were all there. But like many seniors, Lillian had assumed the recliner was a safer, more comfortable choice. She told me later, "I thought I was making things easier for myself. I never imagined I was putting my brain at risk." Here's the medical explanation. When you sleep upright, The body's natural baroreflex, the system that helps regulate blood pressure, doesn't work as efficiently. Your brain and heart can't communicate as easily to keep blood flow balanced. This leads to fluctuations in pressure, especially in older adults. At the same time, blood is pulled downward, away from the brain and toward the legs, where it can stagnate and form clots. Other factors that make this even riskier: swelling in the legs, edema, tight socks or compression from blankets, dehydration, which makes the blood thicker, and medications that affect blood pressure while sleeping. So, what can you do if you've been sleeping in a recliner or know someone who does? Here are a few safer alternatives. If possible, return to sleeping in a bed. Use supportive pillows or a foam wedge to gently elevate the upper body without restricting the legs. Avoid sitting at sharp angles, especially with knees and hips. Compressed. This worsens circulation to the lower body. Elevate your legs slightly with a cushion if you must rest in a chair, and stretch your calves and ankles before and after sleep. Choose a firm surface that keeps your spine aligned. And never sleep slumped forward or twisted to one side. Monitor swelling in the feet or ankles. If you notice it's getting worse, it's a sign that circulation is being compromised. Today, Lillian sleeps in her bed again. She uses a soft wedge pillow to keep her upper body gently elevated. And she keeps a body pillow by her side to support her hip and spine. Her recovery is ongoing, but her message is clear. I thought my chair was helping me. I didn't know it was slowly making me weaker. And that's the truth for many seniors. Because when it comes to stroke risk, it's not just about how much you move. Sometimes, it's about how long you stay still in the wrong position. And speaking of dangerous positions, the next habit is even more common. It feels cozy and familiar, but it could be cutting off blood flow to your brain every single night. Let's talk about sleeping on your side, with your arm tucked under your pillow. Habit number 5. Sleeping on your side with your arm under the pillow. Now, after everything we've covered so far, this next habit might surprise you the most, because it feels so familiar, so natural, so harmless. You lie on your side, maybe your right side, maybe your left, with your pillow tucked just right, your knees gently bent, and your arms slid underneath your head for support. It's the way you've probably slept for decades. But if you're over 60, and especially if you tend to sleep this way all night long, there's something you need to know. This position could quietly reduce blood flow to your brain and may significantly increase your risk of stroke while you sleep. Let's break down what's really happening here. When you lie on your side with your arm under your head or pillow, you're putting direct pressure on some of the most important blood vessels in your body: the carotid artery, which supplies blood to the front of your brain; the vertebral artery, which runs up the back of your neck to the brainstem; and the subclavian artery, which delivers blood to your arms, shoulders, and neck. But in this position, especially if your body weight rests on that arm for hours at a time, these arteries can become compressed or partially blocked. And it doesn't end there. There's also a dense network of nerves in your shoulder and upper arm, called the brachial plexus, that controls everything from hand movement to sensation in your fingers. When your body weight presses down on this area night after night, those nerves can become pinched, inflamed, or even partially starved of blood flow, and the effects can travel up to the brain. But let's focus on the bigger danger first: stagnant blood. When those key vessels are compressed, blood flow to and from your brain slows down. Blood begins to pool, especially in the narrowed vessels of older adults. And when blood sits still, it doesn't just wait, it starts to thicken. That's when a clot can form. And the moment you shift positions, or when your blood pressure naturally rises before waking, that clot can break loose and travel to the brain. The result? A silent stroke. One that happens with no pain, no warning, but can change your life forever. Let me tell you about someone who experienced this firsthand. Mr. Peter Langston, a 74-year-old retired firefighter from North Carolina, had always been an active, strong man. He had a loud laugh, a firm handshake, and he still helped his neighbors fix their fences and garden sheds. Peter had been sleeping the same way for over 40 years, on his right side, arm tucked underneath the pillow, sometimes even curled. under his head for extra support. But one morning, his wife found him half out of bed, dazed and unable to move his left leg. He could barely speak, and the left side of his face had started to droop. At the hospital, scans revealed a stroke in the right hemisphere of his brain, caused by a clot in his middle cerebral artery, one of the brain's most critical vessels. But here's what's important. Peter didn't have high cholesterol. He wasn't diabetic. And he didn't smoke. What he did have was chronic pressure on the blood vessels in his neck and shoulder, caused by years of sleeping with his arm under his head. His ultrasound showed narrowing of the carotid artery on the right side. And when his circulation slowed during sleep, it became the perfect setup for a clot to form and break free before dawn. Today, Peter walks with a brace and attends physical therapy weekly. He still smiles. He still jokes. But he told me this during a recent follow-up. If I had known something as simple as how I slept could put my brain at risk, I would have changed it years ago. Now, let's talk about the nerve side of the issue. When you place your arm underneath your pillow or head, you're compressing the brachial plexus, the nerve bundle responsible for arm movement and sensation. This can lead to numbness and tingling in the hands or fingers, disturbed sleep cycles as your brain reacts to the nerve stress, is in long-term microvascular damage, especially in aging nerves that don't recover as quickly. For seniors, the combination of restricted blood flow, compressed arteries, and stressed nerves can set the stage for both neurological decline and cardiovascular events. So what can you do? Thankfully, the fix is simple, but it requires consistency. Here's what we recommend. Sleep on your left side, not your right. Studies show this may improve circulation to both the heart and brain. Use a firm, supportive pillow that keeps your head level with your spine and prevents you from bending your neck too far. Let your arms rest in front of your body, not underneath it. Use a body pillow to support your upper arm and reduce pressure on your shoulder and neck. This isn't just about better sleep. It's about protecting your independence, your memory, and your ability to move freely each morning. And remember, even if you've been sleeping like this for decades, your body after 60 doesn't behave the same way it used to. The brain, the blood vessels, the nerves, they all become more sensitive to pressure and positioning. And something that used to feel safe might now be putting you at risk. Peter's story is one of many. And if you've ever woken up with a numb arm, a tingling hand, or a sore neck, that's your body sending a message. It's time to make a change. Because what you don't feel happening while you sleep can affect everything about how you wake up. Now, if you think that sleeping on your arm is risky, just wait until we talk about what happens when your body is tossing and turning all night long. Restless sleep may seem like an annoyance, but it could actually be your brain sending distress signals long before a stroke ever occurs. Let's move on to habit number 6, and look at how frequent tossing and turning could be a warning sign you shouldn't ignore. Habit number 6, frequent tossing and turning during sleep. We've talked about the dangers of sleeping flat on your back, face down, upright in a chair, even with your arm under the pillow. But now, let's talk about something different. Something that doesn't just happen once, but repeats itself over and over throughout the night. Tossing and turning. It might seem harmless at first, just shifting to get comfortable, rolling over to cool down, readjusting the blanket or fluffing the pillow. But if you find yourself constantly moving throughout the night, waking up multiple times, switching positions again and again, this may not just be a case of poor sleep. It could be your brain's early warning system, a sign that something dangerous is happening inside your body while you sleep. And for people over 60, it may be one of the earliest red flags for an increased risk of stroke. Let's break it down. Your body goes through stages of sleep, from light sleep to deep sleep to REM. And during those deeper phases, your body should become still, relaxed, and calm. Your heart rate slows, blood pressure drops, and your brain begins its overnight repair work. But what happens when your brain isn't getting enough oxygen during those deeper stages? Or when your circulation is compromised and your blood flow to the brain becomes unstable? Well, the brain does what it's wired to do. It wakes you up. Not fully, but just enough to make you shift, to turn, to lift your head, to gasp, to move a limb. all in an effort to restore blood flow or relieve pressure. This constant motion, even if you don't fully remember it in the morning, is your brain saying, something's not right. It's not just restlessness. It's not just aging. It's not just because your mattress isn't comfortable. It may be the sign of micro disruptions in your brain's oxygen supply, tiny moments where your brain is struggling to get the nourishment it needs. And over time, these moments add up. Now, let me tell you about someone who didn't recognize the warning signs until it was almost too late. Ms. Gladys Romero, a 69-year-old retired seamstress from El Paso, Texas, always prided herself on being active and independent. She still rode the bus to her church group, volunteered at a local thrift store, and spent her evenings watching classic movies with her cat, Patches. But every night, Gladys noticed the same thing. She'd go to bed around 9:30 p.m., but never felt rested in the morning. She'd wake up with the blanket twisted around her legs, her pillow on the floor, her sheets halfway pulled off the bed. And most mornings, her back and neck were sore from all the twisting. At first, she thought it was just her age, then maybe her mattress. But during a routine visit with her doctor, she casually mentioned how exhausted she was, even after 8 hours of sleep. Her doctor ordered a home sleep study. The results shocked her. Gladys wasn't just tossing and turning. She was waking up, even briefly, more than 60 times per night. Her oxygen levels were dropping just enough to disturb her sleep cycles, but not enough to cause gasping or full awareness. And these microarousals, brief, unconscious wake-ups, were putting pressure on her heart and causing dramatic fluctuations in blood pressure throughout the night. Her doctor explained something important. When the brain senses low oxygen or unstable circulation, it jolts you awake to protect itself. But over time, those jolts take a toll on your heart, your blood vessels, and your brain. In other words, restless sleep isn't just a symptom. It can be a contributor to stroke risk. Here's why. Every time your brain is forced to wake up, even just a little, it triggers the sympathetic nervous system. That's your body's fight or flight response. Your heart beats faster, your blood pressure spikes, and your blood vessels constrict to push more blood toward vital organs. But this constant push-pull night after night begins to damage the system itself. And in older adults, where vessels are already stiff and less elastic, this repeated stress increases the chance of blood vessel rupture, clot formation, and silent, overnight strokes. So what causes this tossing and turning? It can be a combination of things: poor circulation, unstable blood sugar, sleep apnea, or mild oxygen deprivation, overheating under heavy blankets, or even sleeping in positions that compress blood vessels or nerves. Here's what you can do to reduce the risk and sleep more peacefully. Use a thinner, breathable blanket to avoid overheating, especially important after 60 when your temperature regulation changes. Elevate your head gently with a supportive pillow to improve breathing and circulation. Stay hydrated throughout the day. Even mild dehydration thickens the blood and increases clot risk. Avoid late-night sugar or heavy meals, which can cause blood sugar swings and restlessness. And finally, pay attention to the signals. If you wake up with your sheets in a mess, if you feel like you've been in a wrestling match overnight, if you fall asleep easily but wake up groggy and stiff, that's not just poor sleep. That's your body trying to protect your brain and asking you to make a change. Gladys now sleeps with a cooling mattress pad, keeps her room slightly cooler, and uses a cervical pillow that keeps her neck and spine in alignment. She's also added a few minutes of gentle leg stretches before bed and drinks a glass of water 1 hour before sleep to stay hydrated. She still wakes up once or twice, but no more tangled blankets, no more twisted pillows. And for the first time in years, she says she feels rested. Because when your brain can rest, your heart can rest. And when your heart rests, your risk of stroke goes down. But what if the stroke risk isn't just about how you move in bed, but what's under your head? Let's move on to the next habit and uncover why using the wrong kind of pillow may be doing more harm than good, especially after 60. Habit number 7. Using the wrong pillow for neck support. Let's take a moment to think about your pillow. It's something so small, so ordinary, so familiar. Most of us don't give it a second thought. But the truth is, the pillow you sleep on every night can either protect your brain and circulation or quietly increase your risk of stroke while you sleep. Especially after the age of 60, using the wrong type of pillow can place strain on your neck, blood vessels, and spine, and may lead to impaired blood flow to the brain night after night. Let's look at how this works. First, picture your neck as a kind of highway. Running through it are your carotid arteries, delivering blood and oxygen to the front and top of the brain. Your vertebral arteries, running through the spinal column to nourish the brainstem and cerebellum. And your jugular veins, carrying blood back down from the brain to your heart. Now, if your neck is bent too far forward or tilted to one side, or if it's compressed under the weight of your head without proper support, these vessels can become partially kinked or constricted. What does that mean? It means your brain may not be getting the steady, even oxygen supply it needs during deep sleep. And worse, the used blood and waste your brain needs to flush out each night may not be draining effectively either. Over time, this leads to stagnant circulation, increased intracranial pressure, clot formation, and ultimately, higher stroke risk during sleep. And the culprit behind all this? Too often, it's simply the wrong pillow. A pillow that's too high can push your chin down toward your chest, pinching off your airway and compressing your vertebral arteries. A pillow that's too low offers no support, allowing your head to tilt uncomfortably, putting pressure on one side of the neck, often where the carotid artery runs. And if your pillow is too soft or collapses during the night, your neck can fall out of alignment entirely, leaving your muscles straining to hold position and your vessels under stress. Now, let me share the story of someone who never imagined her pillow was putting her at risk. Marjorie Feldman, a 72-year-old retired piano teacher from Ohio, had always been a light sleeper. She loved soft pillows. In fact, she had 3 of them stacked just right, with a down-filled one at the top. She thought it felt like sleeping on a cloud. But in the mornings, Marjorie often woke up with a stiff neck, occasional numbness in her fingers, and sometimes even a mild headache behind her eyes. She brushed it off as arthritis, or just getting older. But one morning, things were different. She tried to get out of bed, and her right hand wouldn't move. She wasn't dizzy. She didn't feel pain. But something was off. A quick visit to urgent care turned into a hospital admission. Scans revealed she had experienced a transient ischemic attack, or TI, sometimes called a mini-stroke. It had likely occurred overnight. Her doctor asked about her sleep, her position, her habits, and finally, her pillow. When Marjorie described her setup, the neurologist gently explained, stacked pillows, especially soft ones, can push your neck forward, reducing blood flow through your vertebral arteries. Over time, that added pressure may be enough to trigger a clot or cut off circulation to a small part of the brain. Marjorie was stunned. She'd never had high blood pressure. She ate well. She walked every day. But her pillow, the very thing meant to give her rest, had been silently affecting her circulation for years. Now, this doesn't mean you need to toss out all your pillows, but it does mean choosing the right kind is critical after 60. Here's what you need to know. Proper height. Loft your pillow should keep your head level with your spine, not pushed forward or bent backward. When you lie on your back, your chin should not tilt toward your chest. Firm but supportive. Avoid ultra-soft pillows that collapse. Look for memory foam or orthopedic designs that maintain shape and support. If you sleep on your side, use a slightly thicker pillow to fill the space between your shoulder and neck, but make sure your head isn't tilted upward or downward. If you sleep on your back, use a medium loft pillow that cradles the curve of your neck while keeping your head in a neutral position. Avoid stacking multiple pillows. This often leads to poor alignment and neck strain, especially if you slide down during the night. Cervical pillows are worth considering. These are shaped to support the neck's natural curve and reduce pressure on critical blood vessels. Marjorie now sleeps with a single, medium-firm cervical pillow and keeps her shoulders level with the mattress. No more numb fingers. No more stiffness. And she says her sleep is deeper and more restful than it's been in years. She told us something powerful. I always thought of my pillow as comfort. I didn't realize it needed to be support. And she's right. After 60, comfort and support must go hand in hand. Because your neck isn't just a part of your spine, it's the gateway to your brain. And how you support it every night could determine how healthy and how strong you feel every day. Now, we've covered 7 sleeping habits that can increase stroke risk. But there's one final habit that many seniors fall into, especially during times of stress or sadness. It's a habit that doesn't just affect the body, it affects the mind, and may silently raise your risk for both stroke and heart disease. Let's talk about it next. Habit number 8, sleeping too little due to stress or anxiety. Now let's talk about something millions of people over 60 experience, but very few ever connect to their risk of stroke. It's not a physical sleeping position. It's not your pillow or your blanket. It's not your arm or your neck. It's this. You're not sleeping because your mind won't let you. Whether it's worry, grief, loneliness, money stress, or fear of the future, many older adults lie awake at night, not because they're uncomfortable, but because they're overwhelmed. And while that might seem like an emotional or mental health issue, there's something important you need to know. Chronic sleep deprivation caused by stress or anxiety can directly increase your risk of stroke. Let's break this down. When you're under stress, especially long-term emotional stress, your body produces cortisol, your natural stress hormone. Cortisol isn't all bad. It helps regulate your immune system, blood pressure, and metabolism. But here's the catch. When cortisol levels stay high for too long, especially when you're not sleeping, it causes a chain reaction in the body. Here's what happens. Your blood pressure rises and stays elevated. Your blood vessels become stiffer and less flexible. Your blood becomes thicker and more prone to clotting. Your nervous system remains in fight or flight mode, which keeps your heart rate high. And your brain doesn't get the deep, restorative sleep it needs to repair the damage. Now, you might think, I'm just a light sleeper, or I've always had trouble falling asleep. But when you're over 60, poor sleep becomes more than just a nuisance. It becomes a health risk. Studies show that adults who get less than 6 hours of sleep per night are significantly more likely to develop high blood pressure, experience silent strokes, suffer from atrial fibrillation, a common heart rhythm problem, and even develop signs of cognitive decline earlier. Let me share a story that may sound familiar. Robert Sanchez, a 68-year-old retired mailman from Tucson, Arizona, lost his wife 3 years ago. Since then, he'd been having a hard time sleeping. He would lie in bed at night thinking about her, thinking about what he could have done differently, worrying about his finances, missing the sound of her breathing next to him. He didn't want to burden his adult children, so he never said anything. Instead, he started staying up later, watching the news, drinking more coffee. He was lucky if he got 4 hours of sleep a night. Eventually, Robert began waking up feeling dizzy and tired. His hands would shake slightly in the morning. And one day, while getting out of his recliner, he suddenly couldn't feel the left side of his face. A mild stroke. It happened at 5:15 in the morning, shortly after a night of restless, broken sleep. When the doctor reviewed his case, he didn't have high cholesterol. He didn't smoke. But his blood pressure had been climbing steadily for over a year, and he'd been averaging under 5 hours of sleep a night for months. The doctor told him plainly, your body can't heal if it never gets to rest. And without rest, your heart and brain are at war. It was a wake-up call. Robert started making simple changes. He turned off the news after dinner. He stopped caffeine after 2 p.m. He took short evening walks to calm his mind. And he began using soft, instrumental music and guided breathing exercises before bed. Within weeks, he began sleeping 6 to 7 hours per night. He said the grief didn't go away, but for the first time, he wasn't carrying it into bed with him. And his blood pressure started to drop without any medication changes. Because sleep isn't just about closing your eyes. It's about letting your body restore itself from the inside out, especially your nervous system, heart, and brain. So if you're struggling to sleep because of stress, sadness, or anxiety, please know, this isn't just about rest. This is about stroke prevention. This is about protecting your memory, your mobility, and your independence. Here are a few things you can try starting tonight. Practice 4-7-8 breathing. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 7, exhale for 8. This calms your nervous system and slows the heart. Write your worries down before bed. A simple journal or notepad can move thoughts from your mind to the page. Stay away from news or screens after 7 p.m. Blue light and stressful information keep your brain alert, even if your body is tired. Use gentle herbal teas like chamomile or lemon balm, if safe with your medications. Don't fight your sleep. If you can't fall asleep in 30 minutes, get up and sit somewhere dimly lit until you feel drowsy again. And most importantly, ask for help if you need it. Talk to your doctor. Talk to your family. You deserve rest, and you deserve peace of mind, because your health and your heart depend on it. Now that we've covered all 8 dangerous sleep habits, let's bring it all together. Let's take a moment to gently review what we've learned today. You've just discovered 8 common sleeping habits that may seem harmless, but could be quietly raising your risk of stroke, especially if you're over 60. And here's the good news. Most of these habits are easy to change once you understand how they affect your brain, your heart, and your blood flow. So let's go back through them together, slowly and clearly. Sleeping flat on your back with no pillow. This position may cause your tongue to fall back, obstructing your airway and reducing oxygen flow to the brain. Sleeping face down. This compresses your chest and twists your neck, potentially straining the arteries that supply your brain. Sleeping with a heavy blanket. Overheating can raise your blood pressure and heart rate during the night, which increases clot risk. Sleeping upright in a recliner may feel comfortable at first, but often leads to neck strain and poor circulation to the brain. Sleeping on your side with your arm under the pillow can compress nerves and reduce blood flow, not just to your arm, but also along key circulation pathways. Frequent tossing and turning. A sign your brain may not be getting enough oxygen or rest, which adds stress to your heart and vessels. Using the wrong pillow for neck support can lead to poor alignment, blocked blood vessels, and restricted oxygen to the brain. Sleeping too little due to stress or anxiety. High cortisol levels, raised blood pressure, and disrupted sleep cycles all contribute to a much higher risk of stroke. Now, hearing all of that might feel a little overwhelming, especially if you recognized a few of your own sleep habits on this list. But please remember this. You don't need to change everything overnight. You only need to start with one small step. Maybe tonight, you choose a lighter blanket, or you elevate your pillow slightly to open your airways, or you give yourself permission to unwind early, turning off the news and letting your body relax without guilt. These are not just sleep tips. They are acts of protection, of healing, of loving your future self. Because stroke prevention doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's invisible. Sometimes it's as simple as how you position your head or which way you roll before you fall asleep. And remember, quality sleep is one of your most powerful tools for staying sharp, strong, and independent as you age. So tonight, as you settle into bed, we hope you'll carry these gentle reminders with you. Sleep in alignment. Keep your neck supported. Avoid overheating. And give your mind space to rest. Your brain works so hard during the day. Let's give it the peaceful, healing rest it deserves at night. From all of us here at Trusted Senior Health, we're proud of you for learning, growing, and taking care of yourself, one habit at a time. You're not alone on this journey. We're here for you, every step of the way. You've made it to the end of this video, and that tells us something very important. You care. You care about your health. You care about your future. And you care enough to learn how to protect yourself, even while you sleep. And that right there, that's the first and most powerful step toward lifelong strength and independence. So here's your gentle but urgent wake-up call. Don't wait for a warning sign. Don't wait until something feels wrong. Because by the time your body shows you something is wrong, the damage may already be done. Now is the time to act. Now is the time to build better habits. Now is the time to sleep in a way that supports your brain, your heart, your joints, and your future. And you don't have to do it alone. At Trusted Senior Health, we're here for you every step of the way with clear, honest, research-backed guidance made specifically for older adults. So if you found this video helpful, please don't stop here. Tap on one of the videos now showing on your screen. Each one is packed with practical tips that can help you protect your balance, strengthen your legs, lower inflammation, and feel better each day, naturally. You've got this, and we'll be right here, cheering you on every single week. From all of us at Trusted Senior Health, thank you for watching. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next video.